Culturally relevant or culturally responsive teaching is teaching that draws on students' cultural background and knowledge and uses this as assets in their classrooms. So, three approaches to culturally responsive or culturally relevant teaching are high expectations for all students, building your personal and students' cultural competence, and helping students develop their critical consciousness. So, in this activity, I'm going to show you how to continue to build your cultural competence about the students that you teach and help your students build their cultural competence about their peers and other cultures, and building their critical consciousness by asking your students what's in their DNA. So let's check this activity out. So I developed this activity based off of Kendrick Lamar's song when he's like, I got loyalty and royalty inside my DNA. But this activity is a great activity to meet students of all ethnic and cultural backgrounds. So the way the what's in your DNA activity works is pretty much students are going to use the guide below to analyze what's in their DNA. Okay, so I have some questions that are going to ask them. What are your long-term and short-term goals in life? What issues have you witnessed in your community that you seek to change? What words of inspiration or wisdom have you heard that can empower others? What is your battle cry? How will you use your strength to bring about change in your community, nation, and world? And how does what you wear represent who you are and what you want to be identified as? This activity is a great way for us to build our cultural competence in regards to the students that we serve and to promote building cultural competence among students and their classmates. And so the way I use this activity in my classroom is I have students bring a picture of one of their favorite self-portraits. And then sometimes I even have my students lay down on big butcher paper and draw themselves. But because many of us are working in a virtual space, let's talk about how to use this in our virtual classrooms. So what students do is I like to have a full body picture where they can break and analyze this picture down in front of the classroom. And so first off, they talk about their hairstyle, and from their hairstyle I have them talk about their short and long-term goals. And so what are things they want to do immediately? What are some things they want to do long-term? For their eyes, I have them talk about what are some things that they witness in their community. And remember, we're building our critical consciousness. So how can we in our classroom and through our instruction identify and discuss some of the issues that you're seeing in your community, and how can we use our content area to explore those issues and solve those issues? What words or inspiration or wisdom have you heard that can empower others? And so sometimes students bring in stories from their family, stories from their elders in their community. And again, this helps me build my cultural competence about students. What is your battle cry? The battle cry are those things that you are passionate about and you are dedicated and committed to advocating for and fighting against. And so when we talk about building students' critical consciousness, this helps students examine some of those social and political issues that are affecting their community, affecting their state, affecting their country. And again, how can we in our classroom, how can we use this instruction to learn about those issues and develop potential solutions to solving some of those issues? How will you use your strength to bring about change in your community, nation, and world? Again, building on that social political consciousness. And then how does what you wear represent who you are and how you want to be identified as? And this is a great way to go beyond the surface level stuff about our students and allow us to build and develop our competence about the students that we serve by allowing them to tell us. So what I have them do as a reflection is, after reviewing the characteristics described above, what is in your DNA and how does your DNA shape how you view the world, interact with others, and your core values and beliefs? And so once the students reflect on this activity, then I take this information and I go through it and see how can I bring what my students value, what they believe in, how they identify, how can I use that to build relevant and meaningful learning experiences that get students working together, get students out in their communities, get students to identify issues that are plaguing their communities, and how can we solve those issues. And then this part, the final part, is the fun part, is after you've completed the breakdown of your DNA, I want them to do a think, pair, and toast. And with the think, pair, toast, they usually have to meet with another person in the class. They share what inspires them. They just go through their DNA after they meet with the person in the class. And from them going through their DNA, then they present one of their classmates to the rest of the class or to the larger group by sharing what's in that person's DNA. So I hope that this activity is something that you guys can use, especially when we look at social emotional learning in the classroom, and just building those critical relationships with students, and continuously striving to create culturally responsive and culturally relevant teaching spaces where all students are seen, valued, empowered, and heard. How would I use this in a subject matter? If I were in history, this would be a great way to study historical figures. If I were in an ELA class, this would be a great opportunity to pull out some of those characters in a book and explore those characters in detail. If I were in a math class, you could even have a person turn a formula or an equation into a person and give that formula equation some characteristics in regards to, like, how would this math problem solve an issue that we have in class. If I were a scientist, I would do the same thing. So this is the activity that I have for you today. And don't be afraid to ask your students what's inside their DNA. Thank you.